We all know, or we think we know, that Penn State and Oregon and Ohio State will lead the way in the Big Ten this football season. But who are the wild cards for that fourth Big Ten playoff team? I have my list. How about yours? Locked on Big Ten starts right now.
You are Locked On Big Ten, your daily podcast on the Big Ten Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Big Ten. I'm Craig Sheeman, 40 years as a sports talk show host and play-by-play announcer, and I want to thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Hey, hit that free subscribe button down below. That way you'll never miss a single episode. We're making a push to 20,000 subscribers before football season starts. Also, share, like, and follow. Again, so nobody misses a single episode of Locked On Big Ten. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So the battle for fourth place in the Big Ten on that presumptive playoff spot, plus a lot of recruiting here winding down the month of June, and our top 10 observations from the weekend. Hang on for that at the end. So let's look at the upcoming 2025 college football season, and let's do this reasonably, okay? I think a majority of the members of this audience, I think that they feel the Big Ten will get 4 teams in the college football playoffs again this year. In fact, it is with a great deal of pride that this podcast and our Big Ten fans, we like to remind our SEC friends that we got 4 in last year and they only got 3. Just take a look back at our comments section. That really gets them fired up, doesn't it? They still think the SEC is better, which is laughable. So we'll continue to tweak them. We have fun with that. And also, sorry for them, but facts sometimes get in the way. We're done needling them for right now. We'll come back to that. Well, let's go to our assumption that 4 Big Ten teams get into the playoffs again this year. The question is, which 4 teams? Now, here's where I tend to get in a little bit of trouble with our people here. All right, so here's what I'm going to suggest. I think Penn State and Oregon, the playoff teams this year. And I'm going to make a super educated guess that Ohio State gets into the playoffs as well. Defending national champions, assuming that Julian Sayin is all that he's supposed to be at quarterback this season. All right, so there's 3 of the 4. Who's going to get the 4th spot? Our list, Michigan, USC, Indiana, Illinois, all going to be fighting for that spot. Maybe Nebraska jumps up. Iowa's always good. Washington's going to be my sleeper this year. I've already mentioned that here on Locked On Big Ten. I think they're going to be a lot better than they were last year. So all those teams fighting for that extra spot. Hey, maybe we should go to that 5+11 format that everybody's talking about. Get all those 11 spots. Anyway, so we're going to look at it this way. You know, who's that wild card? Who's going to jump in? Who's going to be that 4th team this year? So my clubhouse leader right now would be Michigan. They won 7 regular season games last year without a quarterback. That's pretty hard to do. And they got wins over the eventual national champion, Ohio State, at their place. I don't need to remind you of that. And they beat Alabama in the ReliaQuest Bowl. Pretty impressive under any scenario. And so Michigan's season, whether it's really, really good or another stepping stone, I think all comes down, obviously, to freshman quarterback Bryce Underwood. I mean, he's the real deal, but he's going to take some time, man. He's 17. He's not even going to be 18 till August. And is he going to be allowed the ramp up to have, the learning curve beginning of freshman year to the end of the freshman year? I think by the end of the season, it'll be phenomenal. And does it cost Michigan any games along the way while he's trying to fight his way through there? So, or does he have to be lights out from day one in order for Michigan to be a playoff team? We also need to know how this Sharon Moore NCAA Spygate ruling is going to be. Is it just going to be the 2 games, the self-imposed 2-game suspension? Is the NCAA going to come back and say, hey, we need more? So these are factors for Michigan this year on how they will do. All right, now let's look at the USC Trojans. This is a big year for Lincoln Riley. No doubt about it. A regression from 8 wins 2 years ago, 7 wins last year. It's fine at some schools, but it's unacceptable for a coach that's got $100 million contract at a high visibility place like USC. Trojan supporters are going to need a substantial uptick in the win column if or things are going. There are going to be some difficult conversations if things are mediocre this year. And I'll be honest. I mean, you can disagree with me here, Trojan fan. I was not overly impressed with Jade Maeva at quarterback. Remember, he took over for Miller Moss last year. But the fact that he's still there with all the movement of all the players and quarterbacks and everybody moving around, and Lincoln Riley, who I still think has the reputation as being a great quarterbacks coach for a head coach, he still sees something in him. He is still there. I think that has to say something to me and go, okay, all right, there's some there. We'll see how he does this year. Indiana. Can Indiana be Indiana again? They were clearly the story of the Big Ten last year. They got into the playoffs with an amazing 11-win season. Curt Cignetti, his first year there. Two things that the Hoosiers have in common with last season's amazing season, their amazing run. They have another manageable schedule. This year's non-cons are Old Dominion and Kennesaw State and Indiana State. But I think their conference schedule is actually a little tougher this year than it was last year. Now, last year they had Ohio State and Michigan. Michigan wasn't quite Michigan. Ohio State was pretty good. And Ohio State was the only regular season game Indiana lost. This year, Indiana has Illinois, and I'm going to come back to that game in just a minute. They're at Iowa and at Oregon back-to-back weeks. That's pretty tough. And they also have a road game with Penn State. So it's going to be pretty tough to keep the loss column at 2 or under, which I think will be the requirement in order to get into the college football playoffs. That's the threshold. The second thing that Indiana has in common with their season last year is Cignetti is bringing in an experienced quarterback to come in through the portal. Curtis Rourke was kind of an experienced one and done last year. Did a great job. Even got a few little Heisman votes there at the end. And leading the Hoosiers to their best season ever. This year, it's Cal transfer Fernando Mendoza. And he's got some big shoes to fill, but there seems to be a lot of upside there, a lot of expectations. And then with Illinois, the other team to watch. Brett Bielema, he's got things rolling here. He's coming off a 10-win season, top 25 finish last year. And the Fighting Illini were the best Big Ten team to not get into the playoffs last year. So another double-digit win total by the Fighting Illini. I think they might get in. They got a lot of talent coming back. They got an experienced quarterback in Luke Altmaier, who, by the way, toyed with the idea of transferring out and going to Tennessee to replace Nico Iamaleava when he bailed this spring. But he decided unfinished business in Illinois, going to stay. We'll see what happens there. So now let me come back to that. I mentioned Indiana and Illinois. They play each other. It's their Big Ten season opener, September 20th. That's huge. That's going to be a huge September game. That game will probably decide which one of these teams will be vying for that fourth spot and trying to get into the playoffs. The loser's going to have an uphill battle. The winner's going to have a nice inside track. So those are my four teams I think have the best chance of getting the fourth spot there and getting into the playoffs representing the Big Ten. Other teams I think worth keeping our eye on: Washington, Nebraska, Iowa. Those three. Washington's been my sleeper all offseason to keep an eye on to be one of the more improved teams in the Big Ten. Jamal Williams Jr., I was very impressed with him as a quarterback last year. But he wasn't the starter. They shared time. They split time at quarterback. He's a tremendous athlete, and now this year he's the guy. And I think he's going to be the breakout player of the year in the Big Ten. He's going to be taking all the snaps. Jed Fish, I thought last year, he started a complete rebuild when he took that job over. And honestly, it was a pretty respectable job. And now year 2, I think a lot of upside for them. And by the way, Williams just came back from the Manning Passing Academy, from the Friday Night Lights quarterback challenge and accuracy competition, came in first. So looking good. Nebraska, always hype up Nebraska. And it seems like Nebraska fan always likes to push back on that. Like, yeah, we'll believe it when we see it. I think they continue their upward trend. I expect quarterback Dylan Raiola to be one of the most exciting players this year in the Big Ten, lighting it up in year 2 under Matt Rule. So keep an eye on Nebraska. And then I'm always going to throw in Iowa mainly out of our respect for Kirk Ferentz, because his teams on paper always look like, man, how are they going to win any games? And then they do. They always win more than people think. So we'll put them in the mix of the team to watch, or certainly they're going to be pretty pesky when they show up on other people's schedules. They're going to have a say in this one way or the other. And look, he's got over a quarter of a century of body of work to back up that statement. So those are all my teams to keep an eye on for the fourth Big Ten spot, fourth place, getting into the playoffs as I see the upcoming season. Did I leave anybody off? What do you think of those picks? I know you have your picks. Who's going to be? I know I'm going to hear from Michigan fan on the comment. Like, yeah, it's absolutely a stone cold lock. It's going to be Michigan. Let's hear from some Hoosier fans as well. Let's get, and I know Trojan fans going to be very vocal about it too. I'll look forward to all your comments in the comment section on YouTube. So go ahead and hit us up there. Also, be sure to hit that free subscribe button down below as we make our push to 20,000 subscribers before the start of football season. That way you'll never miss a single episode. And I always invite you to share, follow, and like Locked On Big Ten. Spread the word that we're out here every day talking Big Ten. You're a Big Ten fan. You're watching. You're listening. I know you know other Big Ten people that probably don't even know we're out here every day. Also, don't forget to check out our website, talkbig10.com, where all of our podcasts go. Plus, there are links there where you can buy shirts, hats, and t-shirts from your favorite Big Ten team, all merchandise for the upcoming 2025 season. So that's pretty cool. You can check that out. We got a lot of recruiting, man. It is getting crazy out there. Some ups and downs for Michigan, Oregon, Ohio State. By the way, Penn State beat out the Buckeyes for a player. They're very proud of that. Got some Huskers and Badgers. New Badgers got themselves a running back. So we're going to talk a lot of recruiting here for Big Ten football. It's coming up in 1 minute right here on Locked On Big Ten. FanDuel, you guys are fans. You like watching sports. It's exciting. But if you got a little something on it, it's even more exciting. Got this summer sports schedule into full swing here. Baseball under the lights, golf, high stakes soccer. FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. So if you want to jump in on the action with your own action, do it with FanDuel. And of course, you can get into the game with your friends too, or ignore your friends. They're out on the beach. You go have some fun with some action with FanDuel. And FanDuel has a great app. It's easy to maneuver. I always like to go in there. Heck, I go in there to get the odds for our pick'em segments on Friday. They're all right there, easy to use, easy to read, and the payouts are fast. And of course, you can get a lot of fun throughout your summer here. It makes it feel like you're part of the action. If you are new to FanDuel or you want to be new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 to get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. So open the FanDuel app today and visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. That's FanDuel.com. Thanks for making Locked On Big Ten your first listen each and every day. You everydayers out there, thank you very much. Meanwhile, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below. Share, follow, and like Locked On Big Ten, your team every day. And don't forget to check out our website, talkbig10.com. All of our podcasts go there. Plus, you can buy Big Ten merchandise right there. Let's talk recruiting. That's what we do here in the middle of summer. Well, actually, it's early summer, but let's jump right in. It's felt like summer for a long time. First of all, let's talk about Michigan, right? They got they actually locked in top 100 offensive tackle MALAKAI Lee, as we talked about last week, he over Georgia and Texas. And they got 3-star Markel Dabney, a linebacker who flipped from SMU. Talked about him last week as well. Now, 4-star corner Brody Jennings from Jacksonville. He was the longest tenured verbal commit or recruit for Sharon Moore's class of 2026, but now he's not really locked in. He's been visiting teams, visiting Florida State, Miami. Sounds like he wants to play at home. And now people are thinking that he's locked in maybe to the Hurricanes. So Michigan may lose out here. By the way, since we pointed out on our podcast, it was about 2 weeks ago, week and a half ago, that Michigan State was out recruiting Michigan because the Spartans had cracked the top 25 with a lot of nice gets. And the Wolverines were kind of slow out of the box. They were ranked like 38th. The Wolverines sensed them, and we said this would happen. We told everybody to calm down a little bit. They had a lot of bait out there for some 5 stars and 4 stars. They've been reeling them in now. They've been on a tear. I saw one ranking poll that had Michigan ranked as high as 11th in the country in recruiting right now. And again, still some 5-star skill players out there that they're hoping to get the word that they're coming to Michigan. And we'll have you all caught up right here on Locked On Big Ten. All right, Oregon. Let's talk about them. They are favorites now to land 5-star offensive tackle Emmanuel Nacho. He's been looking at Utah, Nebraska, and Michigan. And Oregon is also favorites to land 4-star offensive tackle Kelvin Obot. He's looking at Nebraska too, by the way. And it seems like they're going to flip former Florida Gator commit 4-star safety Devin Jackson. That would be a nice get. But he is still considering Nebraska, Miami, LSU, and Florida. By the way, if they do get him to flip from Florida, it'd be revenge for the Ducks, because back in December, they lost 5-star wide receiver signee Dallas Wilson to Florida. So this will be a little bit payback there for Dan Lanning and company. Ohio State, let's talk about their defensive line. 4-star DEMARI SIMEON, as we mentioned last week, is coming to Ohio State over Michigan and Penn State and Texas. Now they're looking to add another 4-star and defensive lineman, Jackson Ford, but it looks like that he is going to go to former Buckeyes defensive coordinator Jim Knowles at Penn State. Keep in mind, he's from Penn State, or he's from Pennsylvania. So that's a big win for Penn State that they're going to get him, and a big win for Jim Knowles and James Franklin. And, number one, you're keeping a kid in the state of Pennsylvania. And number two, you out-recruit Ohio State head-to-head for a player like that. So that's a big win for Penn State to get him with the verbal commit. Nebraska, they flipped a 4-star wide receiver, Nayland Scott, from Powder Springs, Georgia. He was committed to Arizona State as of late April. So not too long. But new coach, Dakiel Shorts Jr., came over from Kentucky this past year. He kept after the kid, 6'2", 200-pound wide receiver, and kept calling and kept in touch, and going to give him a flip from Arizona State. An Arizona State team that went 11-3 last year and made the playoffs, and their wide receiver coach is former Steelers wide receiver Hines Ward. So a good get there by Nebraska. Also, 4-star linebacker target Calvin Thomas. He will declare on July 12th. He's considering Nebraska. He's also considering North Carolina, Michigan, SMU, and Texas. He's 6'3", 210 pounds. And also 4-star offensive tackle Claude Puma is going to announce today, Monday, around 5 o'clock. So we'll keep an eye and ear out for that. And then let's talk about Wisconsin for a moment. Luke Fickell getting 4-star running back Amari Latimer from Tyrone, Georgia. They have been on this kid for 2 years. He had 56 scholarship offers, but the Badgers have been on him for 2 years. And he said, man, that was a big factor. These guys really wanted me. They wanted me from day one, and they were all in. And he said, you know what? I'm going to go to school there. By the way, his older brother, corner Jameer Latimer, he transferred to Wisconsin this offseason as well from Jacksonville State. Maybe we should have been tipped off on that. All right, his older brother's going there. Maybe that's where the running back Latimer was going to go. So, look, I think it's going to be a great setup for him. Wisconsin still has those huge, giant offensive linemen. They've been recruiting huge, giant offensive linemen. They are always going to be able to run the ball. We've mentioned here on this podcast, though, they've made an effort to get some of these big receivers, and they're really adding to the wide receiver room here so far this offseason. So you got some running backs, you got some wide receivers, you get quarterback right, and that's been our number one complaint for Luke Fickell at Wisconsin. He has not been able to get quarterback right in his first 2 years, now going into year 3. But this may help everything. We got all these skill positions at Wisconsin. So I wanted to mention that. All right, coming up, we got our top 10 Big Ten observations from the weekend. We do that every Monday, top 10 Big Ten observations from the weekend. Tuesdays, we do Tuesday tweets. You can follow us on X or Twitter at Talk Big Ten. Wednesdays, we power rank stuff. Always got a good list or a ranking or standings or something to look at. Thursdays, we do our Big Ten Classics off of the Big Ten Network. And Fridays, as I mentioned a moment ago, we like to do our pick segment going into the weekend. But being a Monday, observations. It's going to be very NBA draft heavy with all these now former Big Ten players. We'll talk about that in just 1 minute right here on Locked On Big Ten. Time now for our feature here at the beginning of the week. We're going to do our top 10 Big Ten observations from the weekend. Going to be very NBA intensive here. All the Big Ten basketball players that got drafted in the draft, and then one free agent signing. Well, maybe a couple we'll talk about. Well, one. I'll explain here right in the beginning. I'm going to put this on screen, and we'll take a look at it. If you're audio only, no problem. But we'll describe it here in detail for you with what we got going on with our list. I'm going to start off with and all congratulations to all these guys, by the way, putting in all the work. Big Ten season, year after year, man. These guys got drafted into the NBA. Now, first of all on the list is Michigan's Vlad Golden. He actually did not get drafted, but he did get picked up a two-way developmental contract with the Miami Heat. So that will be that'll be good. And I think it's a good landing spot for him there. And I also do an honorable mention. He's not in the Big Ten or wasn't in the Big Ten anymore. But speaking of Michigan, Hunter Dickinson, I know you guys remember him. And then he went over to Kansas for a couple of years, and he gets a two-way player contract with the Pelicans. So we'll see how that goes for him. All right, everybody else here that we're going to talk about got drafted in the first two rounds of the NBA draft, the only two rounds of the NBA draft. Wisconsin's John Tonje. We love talking about him. What a great shooter. Got picked up late in the second round, and he's going to go to the Utah Jazz. This guy can shoot from anywhere. It looked like the Jazz wanted to work on getting some shooting as well. Talk about Ace Bailey as well. But yeah, Tonje, he's a surefire shooter, and he'll be a nice add there. Again, you never know with late second rounders if they end up making a team or not. But man, if he continues to hit those shots, they'll have a spot for him. Little spot for him. All right, elsewhere in our top 10 Big Ten observations for the weekend. More on the NBA draft. Penn State's Yannick Niederhauser goes to the Clippers. And he late in the first round, about 30th, I think, off the top of my mind. So congratulations to him. At 7, we got Michigan's Danny Wolf. He was the other one. So the Michigan's two big guys, Vlad Golden ending up with the Heat, and then Danny Wolf going to Brooklyn, 27th pick. Now, if you didn't pay any attention to this, weird situation with Brooklyn. They had accumulated 5 first-round picks. 5. I've never heard of that in my life. I think it's a record. And yet, 4 of those 5 picks they use on a guard, and 3 of them were point guards. I don't know what their strategy is. I don't know why they didn't try and package some of those and save them for another year, because the word on the street was that this draft wasn't particularly exceptional or deep. Like if you had 5 draft picks in the first round, this was maybe the worst year to have 5 first round picks. so they go all guards, but Danny Wolf, a big man, so he's got as good of a chance as any of those other guys that they picked up. So Danny Wolf sitting there, and he's a first rounder too, so he's in good shape. What else we have here? Michigan State, Jace Richardson going to the Magic with the 25th pick. And I think that's a good spot for him to land. And that is an up-and-coming team. They've been making some moves. I think in the East, which is wide open. And we haven't heard much from Orlando in the past couple of years, but they've been slowly getting better each and every day. And I think that's a good place for Richardson to be. We'll talk about a couple of Illinois guards, their backcourt. Will Riley ended up with the Wiz at 21, going to Washington. And Kasparis Jakučionis is going number 4, or I mean, he's at number 4 on our list. Went to the Heat, number 20. I think they're pretty excited about him being there. So these guys will get an opportunity from Illinois. And look, Illinois has been good. This is the reason why. They're a good backcourt, for one. Maryland's Derek Queen is third on our list. He went 13th overall, ended up to the Pelicans through a trade. Look, his moment, hit the game buzzer beater, the game-winning shot against Colorado State to get to the Sweet 16. The book on Queen is, look, he's going to be a good player. And he's not one of these 18-year-old guys that they say, hey, it's got so much upside. You kind of know what kind of player Derek Queen is going to be. You know what the upside is. You know where he's at. But a very solid player is going to have a very, very good chance to establish himself in the NBA. Then Rutgers, Ace Bailey. It was bizarre how he handled everything going into the draft, basically telling teams not to draft him, wouldn't meet with them or work out with them, 76ers or whatever. Only fell a couple of spots. You know, it's funny. I was talking the other day. Here's a guy that made his pre-draft situation difficult by not cooperating with some teams, and he fell 2 spots. Compare that to all the stories about Shedeur Sanders and falling out of the first round, not doing well and as far as football goes, and falling all the way to the 5th round. But 2 very different cases. But Ace Bailey's talent is good enough where people are like, all right, let's get him in here. So, between him and Tanjay, the Jazz got themselves some shooters. And then, of course, Bailey's Rutgers teammate, Dylan Harper, very solid player at number 2 overall, going to the Spurs. I think he's going to fit in great there on both sides of the ball, play a little defense out there, throw the ball to Victor Wembanyama, and it looks good. Rutgers, by the way, a little footnote in history, first team ever to have 2 players picked in the top 5 of the NBA draft, and from a team that didn't even make the NCAA tournament. I think a couple of years ago, Juwan Howard's Michigan team had a couple of first rounders go, and they didn't make the tournament, but they weren't top 5. Unbelievable, right? All right, so that's it. Our top 10 Big Ten observations from the weekend. Let me know what you think. Maybe we left something off. Love to hear from you in the comment section as well. Many ways for you to interact with this podcast on Twitter or X at Talk Big Ten. And also, be sure to subscribe. It's free. You never miss a single episode. So go check that out. We did a lot last week, a lot of interesting conversations, and we'd love to hear from you there. So also, I invite you to take a second listen to our friend Brian Smith at the Portal Show. He's always good, so check him out there. And I can't wait till we talk again tomorrow. Lots going on here. We're all over it right here on Locked On Big Ten. I'm Craig Sheeman. Talk to you next time.